Okay, we're going to go in a different direction. So I'm a bastard, or at least I was for a short amount of time. You see, my sister always believed that we were part Native American. It seems like now that they have casinos, everyone's part Native American. The thing was, I never really felt like I fit in. I wasn't tall enough, my hair certainly wasn't curly enough, and my lips were too thin. So I did the smart thing. I ordered a DNA kit from 23andMe for my sister and I. It took about 7 weeks to get the results, and honestly, it was completely shocking, and they proved my sister wrong. We're not part Native American, but I am. That's because the results proved that we have different biological fathers. Those are my parents. And if I'm totally honest, I'm not actually sure who's who, because I got distracted when I put the ashes in the bags, and so I just took a wild guess. So there's no one to ask a question of. I don't know a name or a face or an age. And so I was a walking existential crisis. I was like, who am I? Where did I come from? And so I did what anyone would do during an existential crisis. I shared it as a Facebook update. I then went to classmates.com, which is basically this online yearbook opportunity, and I lied all over it. I made up fake profiles in my dead mother's name. I lied about graduation dates. I found schools and just randomly lied. I found two men, John and Dan. They just happened to have Facebook pages. So I clicked through, I sent them a message, and I felt just shy of saying, "Did you sleep with my mother?" They never responded. I got a tip from a long-lost relative that my mom may have worked at this ice cream shop in a small town in Eastern Oregon called Redmond. So I went on Twitter and I followed the Historical Business Society and the Chamber of Commerce, and I sent them a tweet. They responded that it was called Pedans back in the 60s, so I went back to the internet and I found a historical photo of Pedans from the 1960s, and I sent it to that long-lost relative. She sent a message back and said, "Well, I'll be damned. I think that's where your mom worked." So then I went to Facebook and I found one of those "you know you're from blank if," and this one is Redmond if. And they're basically older people waxing nostalgic about the 5 and dime and when gas cost 50 cents. And I sent them a message and said, I've never been to a 5 and dime, but I'm looking for my biological father. I became friends with two women from this group. Karen, because her family had owned the ice cream shop at one point, and I chose Katie just because she had the same last name as a bunch of kids I knew in junior high. I put an ad in the local paper in Redmond, Oregon, and I just thought, well, maybe even if they didn't know my mom, maybe they made, she had a chocolate shake or something with them. But no one responded, and it was just one more dead end for me. I thought, okay, I got this. I've seen Magnum PI and Miami Vice. I will hire a private investigator. So I found one online, and I sent him an email. I told him my story. I gave him my credit card numbers, and he actually replied. He was so kind and so succinct. He said, "I cannot take your money without a name or a place or an age. This is a lifelong journey. It's like a needle in a haystack." By now, it's been about 6 months, and Katie, my new friend from the Redmond 5 and Dime group, sent me a private message through Facebook, and she said, "I think we need to talk. I think I know who your father is. He sat on my porch for 3 hours the other night talking about your mom." She sent me his yearbook photo and her phone number, and I gave her a call, and after about 15 minutes of talking, she said, "I'm going to stop you right there. I think this is where you and I end and where you and he begin." About 2 hours later, the phone rang, and there was a guy, and he said, "My name is Dan, and I knew your mother." And I said, in the biblical sense? And he said, "Yes, in the biblical sense." So after about an hour or so of talking, we decided to take it further and to test our DNA. I actually tested with his daughter, and it turns out she's my half-sister. And it turns out he's my bio father. So do you remember back when I messaged those two men, very inappropriate messages? One was John and one was Dan. Well, Dan, I found him 3 days into this whole entire process. I have to clap for myself. So if anyone ever says, it's hopeless, a job ain't gonna work out, startup's not gonna work out, you'll never find the love of your life, maybe go looking anyway. Thank you.